Hello, Internet. If you do art only as a hobby, you are not a real artist. That's something that I've heard many times, and I wanted to talk about in this video. First, I'm going to start with a story of when I got a job at an art supply store, and it's the first time that I was called a hobby artist. So, it was 2017. I was living in New York City, and I got the job at an art supply store. It was sort of like a small business, higher end art supply store. Like if you're familiar with Michaels or Blick, it wasn't one of those. Um, all the people that worked there for the most part were people with art degrees and or like art students pursuing a degree in art or pursuing a career in art in some way. Most of the people that shopped there were either art students themselves or professional artists. So, it was a little bit higher end. And I love art, so getting the opportunity to work there was amazing. When I did the interview and they wanted to see my art, I showed them my art, which mostly looks like this. You know, Nothing crazy. This is not my best work. I usually give away my better drawings to my friends and family. But yeah, so they were, not impressed, but it wasn't a big deal. First day at the job, they're showing me around. They're showing me where all the different sections are in the store, introducing me to different people. The manager brings me to, introduces me to somebody that's working there. And she's like, "Hey, this is our new employee. He's a hobby artist." And I remember in that moment being like, hobby artist? Like, why did you feel the need to say that? Like it felt sort of like demeaning the way it was presented. And that was the first time I heard that statement or that descriptor where I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I like that, you know? But in definition, that is what I am. A hobby is just something people do for fun, for pleasure, and it's not a big deal. It's not an important part of their life to the point where they need it. I talked about this in my last video, and there was a lot of comments on my last video that mentioned doing art as a hobby only. So it really inspired me to think about this again, and it made me think of that story. And the irony of that is I ended up being the manager of that art supply store. I actually ended up helping open a new location and manage the store. So clearly me being a hobby artist didn't really affect my ability to do my job, but that's neither here nor there. So I think this might be more prevalent in like the fine art world than it is in music. And I talk about music a lot on my channel, but I really try to make my videos about art in general. And I think there's a lot of pretentiousness when it comes to art if you're not pursuing it fully as a career. It's like if you find an artist that you really like and they're just kind of doing it on the side, they don't really care about their career. Some people might not feel as inclined to support them. Like a lot of people feel like their artists need to be fully all in and know that they're like fully committed to doing it for them to feel like they can support them. And I think that's kind of stupid because art is art. It doesn't matter who makes it. It doesn't matter how it's made. If you connect with it, that's all that matters, you know? So I don't know. I wanted to open up this conversation because I'm curious what other people think about the idea of a hobby artist and if it seems like demeaning to you or not. Because for me, when I hear that, I don't know, it hits somewhere in me that I don't like. Because when I think of hobbies, I think of like, I don't know, baking or going on walks, things, I don't know. There's so many different things that can be a hobby. But music to me is not a hobby because it's the most important thing in my life. You know what I mean? Like, it's my biggest passion. And listen, if people think that, I don't really care, but I also like I said, it hits me in a way that just doesn't sit well with me. And I don't think that money, first of all, money should not be a factor in what you think of art. Like with paintings, for example, paintings can be anywhere from $1 to hundreds of millions of dollars. If you see a painting that you really like and then you see the price tag is $20, is that going to make you like the painting less? Or if you see a painting that you think is really stupid and then you see it's being sold for $10 million, is that going to make you like it more? Like, I don't know. I think when you get money involved, it gets confusing because it's like money is not a part of art. Money is a part of, having a career with art, and you can make money with your art, but the art itself has nothing to do with money. Like, even if you're making art for the purpose of making money, the actual process of making art doesn't involve money, aside from buying the supplies or equipment that you need to make the art. You know what I'm saying? So, like, making your appreciation for art contingent on if you are pursuing it for money is not something that I think it's weird. And I think that a lot of people seem to think that way. You know, like, I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about my last video, but this is kind of like a part two, I guess, of that video. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. But there was just some sentiment from people that was like, well, you're not really, just say you don't want to do it. You know, like, it doesn't really matter. You're just a hobby artist. And again, by definition, I don't think that that's a problem. But it just really, I don't know. I'm just curious what you guys think. I just wanted to talk about that this week. Let me know what you guys want me to talk about. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'm willing to, dive into anything art and music related from my perspective. I put out a new video every Sunday. So if you like this video, you can come back next week for a new one, and I'll see you then.